Could Marvel be planning even more shocking deaths in their Spider-Man franchise? Keep watching to find out why they might be. Cap had such a beautiful ending in Avengers Endgame with Peggy Carter, and if that was tarnished in any way, fans might take to the streets. Leading up to Avengers Endgame, fans long suspected that either Tony or Steve would die, with many assuming there wasn't a world where both would meet their end. All across social media, MCU stans guessed who would perish out of the two, and it seemed to be split right down the middle. In a popular Reddit thread, MCU fans were forced to choose between the two men, but there was no consensus among the dozens of users who participated. It's simple. No one wanted either man to die, but for the story's sake, one had to. With Tony's death set in stone in the sacred timeline, losing Steve as well in the future would just be too much, and bringing him back only to kill him off would be even worse. Just ask Star Wars fans. One thing is absolutely certain. If they kill Thor, we riot. With both Natasha and Tony 6 feet under and Steve off living in some other timeline, the only remaining original Avengers we have left are Thor, Hawkeye, and the Hulk. Of those, Thor is easily the most popular, so if he were to die, it would be nothing but a big bummer. It would have to be someone or something serious to take him out, of course, but while that might make for a great scene, we'd really rather avoid it altogether. There's no telling what fate awaits him in Thor Love and Thunder, but we do know that Hemsworth wants to play the character forever, telling This Morning in 2019,
I'd play this character for as long as anyone let me, as I said, I've loved it so much.
If we were to list some of the most badass people in all of the MCU, you better believe Okoye is going to be near the top of that list. With no superpowers, the Wakandan has proven she's a force to be reckoned with, knocking out her fair share of outriders in both the Battle of Wakanda and the Battle of Earth. She is fiercely loyal to her home country, even putting it above her love for her partner in Black Panther. Okoye's dedication to her people and whatever mission is at hand makes her easy to root for, no matter what film she's in. We know she'll be appearing in Black Panther Wakanda Forever and the untitled Wakanda Disney Plus series, and we hope she makes it out of the latter alive. We hope T'Challa's family and closest allies make it through each and every impending battle, so they can continue to honor his legacy. This one should go without saying, but the death of Happy Hogan would absolutely crush fans of the MCU. He has been in the universe since day one, appearing in 6 films as one of Tony Stark's best friends and as a mentor to Peter Parker. Happy just has that good guy quality in him, and watching him almost die in Iron Man 3 had us wanting revenge on Aldrich Killian ourselves. It turns out Happy was supposed to die in the film, according to storyboards from the first script. We're not sure why the change was made, opting to have Happy survive the explosion, but we're sure glad they decided to go with a more positive outcome. How the character is changed by the events of Spider-Man No Way Home remains to be seen, but here's hoping he finally gets a true, happy ending. Rocket might be a little bit of a jerk most of the time, but we know it's because he suffered from quite a difficult life. He definitely has strong feelings when it comes to those he loves, primarily for Groot, as we saw him weep when his friend first died in Guardians of the Galaxy. And then again when Groot died the second time in Avengers Infinity War. If Rocket were to die in an upcoming project, we suspect audiences wouldn't take it very well. To be fair, whenever an animal dies in a movie, it always seems to have a more significant impact on the viewer than when a human dies, but we don't need any old Yeller moments in the MCU. Seeing a poor little raccoon, albeit a wisecracking, mutated one, die on the big screen would be truly devastating. Just take Peter Quill instead. We're begging you. Florence Pugh took the MCU by storm after debuting as Yelena Belova in Black Widow. Serving as the sister of Natasha Romanoff, the former assassin helped fight back against the baddies to take down the Red Room, ultimately coming out victorious. The film wasn't without its flaws, but it was widely accepted that one of the best things about Black Widow was Yelena, thanks to Pugh's stellar portrayal. From the way she poked fun at her sister's superhero landing to her convincing breakdown at the family reunion, Yelena is one of the more relatable MCU characters out there, and fans only grew to love her more thanks to her surprise appearance in the Disney Plus series Hawkeye, which tied everything together.
You got so much time with her.
Yes, I did.
Someone needs to carry on Natasha's legacy, and there is no one better to do it than her. If Marvel kills off Yelena somewhere down the line, it's going to be one hell of a hit to the MCU fandom. Spider-Man has always been one of the most widely loved superheroes, and the massive success of the Sam Raimi-directed trilogy in the early mid-2000s is definitely proof of how much fans always wanted to see the web-slinger on the big screen. Star Tom Holland does a stellar job of portraying the MCU Spidey. He brings an innocence to the character in ways not captured by Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield, and his naive nature fits the teenage hero to a T. Technically, yes, we did see Peter die in the finale of Avengers: Infinity War, and it was the biggest gut punch of them all. Despite Holland being in the MCU a shorter amount of time compared to other fan favorites, his Infinity War death proved how much audiences have accepted his version of Spider-Man. Putting the permanent kibosh on Tom Holland's Peter Parker would leave the MCU fandom reeling for sure. Groot made his MCU debut in Guardians of the Galaxy and was immediately loved by all, despite only speaking 4 different words in the entire film, 5 if you count his name. Groot is fiercely loyal, especially to Rocket, and he has a ride-or-die nature that isn't evident in all Marvel film characters. This was evident in his ultimate sacrifice at the end of the movie, where he creates a cradle out of his body to save the rest of the Guardians from an otherwise deadly crash. Viewers fell for the talking tree in just 2 hours, and his death in the film was shocking. We had just been introduced to this new superhero team, and losing one of the members right off the bat was a bold writing choice. Luckily, we didn't have to wallow in our grief for too long, as it was revealed in the movie's finale that a part of his shattered body was planted and a new Groot was born. While teenage Groot tends to be annoyingly angsty, we know that inside he's pure of heart. Watching Groot suffer a permanent death would be pretty difficult, and watching other Guardians go before bidding farewell to the beloved tree might be easier, like, say, Peter Quill. Now, that would be a better plan.
I like your plan, except it sucks, so let me do the plan, and that way it might be really good.
With 2 solo films and 2 team-ups under his belt, Scott Lang has become a staple in the MCU. Serving as one of the sillier characters in the film universe, Scott instantly got the fandom behind him, and he's become one of the MCU's leading stars with characters like Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, and Natasha Romanoff out of the game. If Scott were to die in the upcoming Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania or another team-up film, the MCU fandom would riot on their computers. It's not so much that killing off Ant-Man would devastate moviegoers as much as saying goodbye to star Paul Rudd would. His comedy never feels forced, and there is so much more to explore with the character. No more Scott means no more Rudd in Marvel projects, and that's not something we're prepared to handle just yet. Wanda Maximoff has one of the most complex story arcs in all of the MCU. As a matter of fact, it doesn't seem like her arc is even close to being finished at this point, as she has only recently become the Scarlet Witch after the events of WandaVision. While it looks like she might be on the path to darkness, watching Wanda die would be pretty painful. We know the true, good-natured Wanda is still in there somewhere. We're just hoping light triumphs over evil in her next few appearances. That's all. Wanda has had way too much happen to her in her life. From the death of her parents, to the death of her brother Pietro, to the many deaths of Vision, to the complete breakdown of her not-so-happily ever after in Westview. The woman needs a break. If anyone deserves a happy ending, it's Wanda, and that certainly isn't going to happen with her death.
That doesn't seem fair.
There are awesome MCU characters, and then there are protect-at-all-cost characters. And one of those is Mr. Jimmy Woo. First debuting in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Jimmy was a funny, quirky FBI agent assigned to Scott Lang's parole officer. There is something so endearing about Jimmy, which was further amplified when he showed up in Westview for WandaVision. He fights for the side of good and rebels against leadership when he knows something is afoot. The allure of Jimmy Woo is similar to that of his frenemy, Scott Lang, as both characters are played by actors loved by the public. If anyone played Jimmy other than Randall Park, fans across the globe might have been less likely to fall in love with the agent. Throughout the airing of WandaVision, viewers campaigned across social media to get Jimmy his own spin-off series, according to The Direct. Some Redditors even dubbed him the best new Marvel character, so if he dies off in a future phase, we can expect some serious backlash from fans. One of the best moves ever made in the MCU's casting history was the switch from Terrence Howard to Don Cheadle for the part of Colonel James Rhodes. Sometimes those kinds of actor replacements can ruin a movie, but that wasn't the case at all here. Rhodes is another of Tony Stark's closest friends and confidants who always has his back. He's also instrumental in the fight against Thanos and one of the few who participates in the time heist. We've been through so much with Rhodes that seeing him go down would be difficult to watch. Case in point, it looked like Rhodes met his end in Captain America Civil War after Vision accidentally knocked him out of the sky. When he hit the ground, audiences across the world gasped. It was a moment when many MCU fans realized they cared a hell of a lot more about the character than they thought they did. It would be tough to watch that kind of moment again with Rhodes, as we need as many people as we can to carry on the memory of Iron Man. With Cheadle set to return in the upcoming Disney Plus series Armor Wars, we hope nothing but good things are on the horizon for War Machine. We've seen a love interest of Spider-Man die on the big screen before, and it's nothing we're interested in going through again. The death of Gwen Stacy in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was a total shock, except to anyone who has ever read the comics, of course. And if that type of twist was delivered twice to Spider-Man fans, it would be way out of bounds. Zendaya does an incredible job portraying MJ in the MCU Spider-Man films, and following the events of Spider-Man Far From Home, it would be even more devastating to lose her. Sometimes close friends and love interests are killed off in films to give the protagonist the push they need to defeat the big bad, but we're hoping that's not a route the MCU takes with MJ. With a talent like Zendaya on your roster, it's best to keep her around as long as possible. It took all of one episode for Loki viewers to fall in love with Mobius, Mobius, the Time Variance Authority agent played by the charming Owen Wilson. The actor had undeniable chemistry with Loki himself, Tom Hiddleston, and every scene involving the duo was pure magic. Fans absolutely lost their minds when Mobius seemingly died in episode 4 of the series after being pruned by Judge Renslayer. We had only known him for a few episodes, but the determined yet kind TVA agent became a favorite in no time. Thankfully, we found out in episode 5 that one doesn't die when they're pruned, but instead transported to the void at the end of time. It's usually a death sentence, but Mobius was able to get out, in addition to surviving all the events of Loki, which suggests we will see Wilson back in action. If we lose Mobius in a future MCU project, fans will not go quietly. For weeks, the fandom took to social media to express their love for the mustache-rocking agent, with many a thread on Reddit dedicated to the hopes of seeing Mobius on a jet ski in the future. If he does die, which he better not, we just hope he has one hell of a ride on a Sea-Doo before biting the bullet. Wong is a force to be reckoned with in the MCU, and we're not quite sure the Sorcerer's full potential has been revealed just yet. When he first debuted in Doctor Strange, it seemed like Wong would primarily serve as a sidekick to Stephen Strange, but the last several years have proven he's his own man. Wong has shown up in 5 different MCU flicks, and also has a big role in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. If Wong is killed off, it's going to send some serious waves through fandom. The character is undoubtedly a fan favorite thanks to his dedication to his craft and perfectly timed one-liners.
It's funny.
Wong feels like a security blanket, always there to protect you and make you feel warm and fuzzy. Losing Wong wouldn't just be a blow to the fans, but the MCU as a whole, especially Doctor Strange. Without Wong to keep the Sorcerer Supreme in line, the ramifications of losing him could be catastrophic to the entire MCU. Shuri just might be the most intelligent character in the MCU right now. Rocket might give her a run for her money, but with Tony Stark in the ground and the Hulk constantly switching between forms, the Wakandan is one of the brightest minds on the planet. While it's still up in the air what role she will move into in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Shuri is likely to play a more significant role in the MCU as a whole. The loss of Shuri isn't something audiences would handle very well, especially since she is the only child of King T'Chaka left. And as with Okoye, it would be pretty difficult to see the loss of another major Wakandan character. Shuri has so much to offer the world and her superhero friends that her loss would be devastating on so many levels. Justifying her death would be a difficult task for writers, and we're hoping she sticks around for quite some time. Talk about an MCU character who has been through the ringer. Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier, has appeared in 5 films and 1 Disney Plus series, serving as the loyal best friend of Steve Rogers. Despite his hardened exterior, Bucky has long been a fan favorite in the MCU, who is one of the most tragic character arcs in the Infinity Saga. He has persevered, despite being brainwashed by the enemy, and comes full circle and repents for his past transgressions in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Some fans on Reddit were bummed out that he didn't take on the mantle of Captain America as Steve Rogers passed over his shield, but Bucky himself seemed to agree the honor belonged to Sam Wilson. Bucky has an all-around good heart, and fans have only ever wanted the best for him, given his tragic past with Hydra. If he were to die in an upcoming project after the beautiful closure he had in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it would be a travesty. Some people just deserve goodness thrown their way, and Bucky is one of them. Hawkeye turned out to be one incredible ride and introduced one of the most fun and exciting MCU characters of the last few years. Haley Steinfeld absolutely nailed the role of Kate Bishop, a stellar archer who was inspired by Clint Barton when she saw him defending New York from the Chitauri in 2012. Her constant fangirling over Clint was perfectly ironic given how there has always been a debate amongst MCU fans whether Hawkeye might be the worst Avenger. Kate is a wonderfully naive character who is still learning who she is and what her place is in this superhero world. This type of young hero is exactly what the MCU needs moving forward, and taking her out too soon would be a big hit for the fanbase. There's also much to discover between Kate and Yelena Belova, and fans are certainly shipping that potential friendship, whose roots were laid in Hawkeye. These two have the potential to be the MCU's next besties, so they must be protected at all costs. Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more Looper videos about the MCU are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.